Hi, this is Robert Tucker. I'm sharing my Dismantling Stereotypes presentation for SPED 5030. For this assignment, I selected the movie Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, which follows the story of Oscar, a young boy with autism spectrum disorder. He loses his father in the September 11 attacks, like many in New York City. And the plot of this movie really centers on Oscar's quest to uncover the mystery of a key he found in his father's closet. I chose this movie because I was hoping to find a positive portrayal of people with autism spectrum disorder. First, I wanted to start off by just kind of rating the accuracy of the portrayal in this movie. To do that, I wanted to share some general characteristics of autism spectrum disorder. It is a neurological and developmental disorder, and people with autism spectrum disorder exhibit a wide range of abilities and behaviors. However, we can probably summarize some of the more general characteristics in three common areas. The first is communication. Many children with ASD lack functional speech, or they have impaired or odd intonation. The second would be social interaction, limited use of nonverbal cues, the theory of the mind, which is a hypothesis that people with ASD struggle to understand the perspectives of others. And then they have difficulty forming age-appropriate relationships and friendships. And finally, there are a host of repetitive or restrictive behaviors that are associated with ASD, intense focus on narrow interests, a rigid attachment to routines or rituals, repetitive movements or mannerisms, fixation on parts of an object, and sensory issues, specifically and usually associated with loud noises. So how does this movie, how accurately does it portray? Well, first and foremost, I would say communication is not typical for a person with autism spectrum disorder. Oscar in the movie speaks very clearly and very fluently. He is constantly making eye contact with the people he speaks to, and his speech really lacks those abnormal or odd rhythms. This may have been a little creative license on the part of the filmmakers, but it does not feel authentic or accurate to the communication experience of a person with ASD. However, social interactions and the reactions that we see in this film feel very authentic. And throughout the film, in his conversations, Oscar demonstrates the theory of the mind. When he's meeting with the first Mrs. Black, who he's discovered, he doesn't understand that she's going through a divorce and in the middle of an argument with her husband when he walks into their house. He, in fact, asks to take a picture of her, as you can see in that top image, not understanding she's upset. He speaks very bluntly with little social reciprocity. His friendships feel inappropriate for his age. The doorman, the locksmith, his grandfather, as you can see in the bottom picture on the scene on the bus, he doesn't realize that someone probably doesn't want someone else's juicy juice stuck in their mouth. So again, very authentic and accurate representation of social interactions. Finally, I think the representation and demonstration of repetitive and restrictive behaviors is also very active. Oscar uses his tambourine to calm himself. He likes the soothing sound. The subway, swings, other things make very loud noises that bother him. And he is constantly demonstrating an intense focus both on parts of an object, as you see him scratching the floor under his bed, as well as his interest in expeditions, maps, and elephants. So I would say, as a whole, this movie is pretty accurate portrayal of a person with autism spectrum disorder. Now I wanted to look at the psychosocial stigma that this movie may be creating. And I would say overall that this is a movie about a boy with autism spectrum disorder, not an autistic boy. And I really appreciated that. The movie focuses on the theme of trauma and loss and really avoids the discourse of pity that Hayes and Black outline in their documents. So autism spectrum disorder appears to be more of a character trait. And the focus is really on these people experiencing trauma and loss at this time in New York City. Oscar's allowed to show strong emotions. He's allowed to argue and fight and cry. And it really shows a wide spectrum of mental health issues related to grief and loss. I would also say that Oscar has very real human relationships. His parents aren't the perfect objects of charity that Block outlined. His grandfather is wrestling with his own trauma, and these characters and relationships that he have feel very human. His father gets frustrated when he won't ride the swing. His mother can't understand how he won't let go of his father's loss. And so the interactions are very authentic. And then I would just say that, the stigma against disabilities is present in this film. It's not the focus of the movie, but we do see in the beginning several of his classmates kind of teasing him and or calling him out for being slightly different. When I think about how this movie affects individuals both with disabilities and those without, I would say that it has a lasting positive effect. This film forces viewers to see Oscar as a human, a boy experiencing grief first and foremost. And that is a universal human condition. Loss and trauma really bring us all together and cut through layers of identity and culture to really help us understand the human condition. I also think that this movie shows a wide spectrum of people facing issues in New York at that time, which really does a good job of showing how everyone handles grief in their own unique way. From a learning experience perspective, I really appreciated this assignment. I think I was aware of the stereotypes and negative portrayals that we see across Hollywood and movies, but I was not aware of how impactful this stigmatization is for people with disabilities. There was one quote that really stuck with me from Hayes and Black, and it's, "Stigmatization is less a byproduct of disability than its substance." I think that will forever ring around in my head, that the thing holding most people back is not their disability, it is how they are treated because of their disability. Thank you again for the opportunity. I really appreciated getting a chance to watch this movie and working on the assignment.